Everyone's saying this could be the best bourbon of the year. Let's see if they're right. Today we're doing a review of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch C923. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So, in terms of the hype train, I may never have seen it quite as huge as this. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch C923 is basically everybody's favorite bourbon of the year so far. From what I've seen, the reviews coming out, this is an absolute hitter from Elijah Craig. I was able to get my hands on this bottle down at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, so super excited to have my own bottle. Paid around $80 for it, which is pretty typical. I think MSRP is still $70, but 80 is totally fine by me. Why are people going crazy for this? Well, the stats on the bottle kind of speak for themselves. So in terms of the C923, what does that mean? If you're not familiar with Elijah Craig, that just means it's the third batch of this year. Every year they release an A, B, and C batch. Usually it's like January, May, and September. The 9 here stands for September, so this came out here just recently in the last month or so. But in terms of proof, we're looking at 133 proof. That's the highest Elijah Craig barrel proof I've seen ever in my couple of years of whiskey drinking. And it seems to harken back to some older Elijah Craig barrel proof batches, which were above 130. The age, which is what's got a lot of people talking, it's 13 years and 7 months old. They recently did away with the 12-year-old age statement, and batch B this year was about 11 years and 5 months old. This, they come out swinging and they're like, see, we get rid of age statements and we can go older. So we've got 13 years, 7 months worth of aging, and it shows. I mean, one of the first things I notice about this whiskey is just the color. It's dark, it's rich, deep amber, a little bit reddish even, just looks viscous as well. So this bottle is clearly one that people are on red alert for. I've had a couple of pours already from it. I won't tell you exactly what I think, but let's just say I'm digging it already. So let's dive in now. Let's do a full review. We'll just see if the hype is real and if this really is bourbon of the year worthy. All right, let's go in on the nose. Gosh. Wow. All right, so there's a little bit of an ethanol kick. Not gonna lie, the 133 is there. And I've let this sit for about 10 minutes, so still there. But once you get past that, it's so good. Dark red cherry, peanut and caramel, like peanut brittle, like very sugary peanut. Like a toasted brown sugar as well to go along with that. Vanilla is there. Pepper notes. So now the ethanol is opening up a little bit and there's more like a cinnamon peppery fire to it. So it definitely comes across a little bit fiery. But it's not gentle, and it's letting you know that it's ready to come out with full power. Maybe a touch of chocolate. More of a dark chocolate, I think. But the real gooey core to this is this peanut brittle, oak, spicy cinnamon thing going on. And I didn't mention it, but oak, there's a lot of oak on it as well. It's got a little bit of like an old leather oak spice note to it. I've got a Knob Creek 18 in there as well, and that gives me this, like, you stepped into this 1950s furniture store with that dusty kind of oakiness. And this has just a touch of that, but it's definitely rounded out with like the peanut brittle, caramel, chewy goodness and sweetness. So it's a pretty stellar nose, not gonna lie. Let's go into the palate. Let's get some more information. Let's dive in. Cheers. Wow. Okay, so not my first sip of the day. I actually warmed up with a little bit of just regular old Elijah Craig small batch because I knew this one would hit, but it's hitting hard. This first sip is hitting hard. But man, so much of the nose transfers over. Nice rich oak, spicy, peppery, cinnamon, and oak mixture, but really nicely balanced out with like a rich caramel. And it's, again, that peanut brittle, sugary peanut mix that is phenomenal. It's like candy, but dark and rich and aged very, very nicely. There is a little bit of fruit, but I don't get super high amounts of it. Maybe just a touch of that black cherry, especially on the finish. I think the finish goes a little bit more fruity, but this one is more about that peanut brittle and vanilla oaky spiciness, and it's rich too, rich in the mouth. All right, let's go in for a second sip. Now that it's on the palate, we can probably pick up some more of the subtle flavors. Cheers. Man, so it's just like, it is that balance between spicy and sweet that you want. It is a spicy bourbon though. The 133 proof is there. The red hot cinnamon and oak peppery spice kind of mingle together to give it this consistent spice throughout. So that doesn't go away. It gives you Kentucky hug, and the finish is long and spicy. But it's got such rich brown sugar and a little bit of a sweet oak as well. Just a touch of that black cherry, and then that peanut brittle. It's just smooth and rich, but then the spice is just like, just throughout the whole thing, making sure you know that this is like a super powerful, bold whiskey. Though I will say, like, the spice it's on the borderline of overwhelming, but I don't think it crosses it. I think it's spicy in a really nice way. So let's go in for our third sip. We'll evaluate the finish, really track how long that lasts, and wrap up our thoughts here. Just before we do that, I do want to say, if you're enjoying all the content coming out of the channel, would love to have you aboard as a subscriber for the rest of 2023. We're kind of getting to the end here. And just beyond that too, it really helps the channel grow if you do subscribe. I think it's something like 84% last time I checked of people who watch my content don't subscribe. So if you haven't subscribed yet, would really appreciate it. While you're at it, hit that like button and comment down below. Have you tasted Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C923? If you have, what did you think? Do you think it's one of the best bourbons of the year? Do you agree with the hype? All right, let's go in for the third sip and the finish. Cheers, everybody. It makes my mouth water. Like the finish, my mouth is continuing to kind of experience it and try to drink it in. It's just really, really long and rich. Spicy, oak spice, cinnamon spice. A little bit of that caramel and peanut brittle sticks around. I think the uptick of like the black cherry for me, or dark cherry toward the end of the sip, is really nice. So just enough sweetness, enough fruitiness to keep you interested. But it really is that rich oak and spice that keeps this thing going forever. As you progress through the sip though, I mean, you start out with this kind of rich, gooey brown sugar, and then it kind of goes into that peanut brittle in the middle with maybe a touch of chocolate, and then it really kicks up with the spice, I think, toward the back end of the mid palate into the finish. So it's powerful, it's bold, it's impressive as heck. I will say, I haven't tasted anything quite like this in a while. I think when people think of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, they usually think of something like this. It doesn't get much bolder and richer than C923. That being said, my one caution is, obviously this is not for beginners. 133 proof, and it drinks right around there. It might drink more like 129, 130. So beware, it's spicy, it's hot, but it's balanced enough that that is not an obstacle. In fact, it's one of the best balanced whiskeys when you take into account the proof, especially for like more experienced bourbon drinkers. So this is one of the best things I've tasted all year for sure. I can't think of another batch that I like better than this off the top of my head. I have consistently liked Larceny Barrel Proof over Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, especially recently, and this might flip those tables. I'm gonna try to hunt down all the batches from the year, so I've already got all Elijah Craig's, just trying to find the last Larceny Barrel Proof. I want to do some comparing, but if I had to bet money right now, I'd put a lot of it on this batch because it's good and the people aren't wrong. Like, the hype is real. For 70 to 80 bucks, if you see it for that, I think it's 100% like a no-brainer. Actually, I wish I had gotten 2 while I was at the Bourbon Festival and had a backup. Kind of regretting that. If you see this for 100 bucks, I still think it's a buy. Over that, you kind of just have to discern, you know, what you're willing to pay, but this is one of the best whiskeys I've tasted in 2023 for sure. All right, everybody, those are my thoughts, kind of gushing over it. It's just really, really good stuff. Let me know again in the comments, have you tasted it? What'd you think? And until I see you guys for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.